Okay, we'll move on. And this is something obviously we've touched on under petrol stations. It's a question in relation to sustainable fuel vehicles. What requirements should there be for new developments to provide for sustainable fuel vehicles? Ian, could you just very briefly give some description of what we mean by sustainable fuel vehicles?
Sure. These are vehicles which run on alternative fuels, such as LPG or CNG, the two types of gas-powered liquid gas vehicles, or alternatively electric and hybrid electric vehicles.
Thanks, Ian. Are there any points people want to raise in relation to new developments providing for sustainable fuel vehicles?
Well, I'm not sure how they can provide for sustainable fuel vehicles, but if they could, maybe it's a good idea. I certainly think on charging of cars, it's probably, you'd think it'd be automatic, but maybe in all developments. I mean, how easy is it if you buy a car space or get a car space within development that there's a plug next to your bay or a spare bay where you can plug in your car to be recharged rather than use one of the few of the councils out there. So it seems pretty obvious. But if you don't design it in at the beginning, I suppose the developer or the service charge say, well, we're not going to provide it or we can't provide it. And so it should be built from the the beginning, but in the design to accommodate not just one, but to the capability of charging a number of electric or hybrid vehicles within that development.
Do you think there should be a requirement then for charging?
Yeah, definitely on new developments.
It's part of all development?
Yeah, well, with developers that are providing a car parking space within development, I mean, they provide lighting and fire, safety valves and everything. So they should provide, electric charging point, whether it's one per bay or several. You can't just have one bay because the people occupy. But I certainly think people should be encouraged to be able to charge their car off street overnight or in the day, whatever. And it should be a requirement of the planning permission.
Okay, thank you.
Simon Burkett. I think this should be looked at as tackling emissions, both CO2, climate change emissions, and hazardous air quality health emissions. You need to tackle both, and there may be big advantages in having low CO2 gram per kilometre vehicles, which may not be some of these sustainable fuels, and CNG has all sorts of problems associated with it. Very high greenhouse gas equivalents, global warming potential levels if it boils off, for example. So I think I would look at CO2, climate change, and air quality things. And in terms of the trade-offs between those, the principle that we've suggested in the past is a 10-to-1 policy. If you can improve CO2, other way around, if there's a 1% CO2 cost, but a 10% reduction in the hazardous pollutants, then you should go for that, and vice versa.
Okay, thank you.
Firstly, sorry to be late. I believe that it is important to provide electric vehicle charging points, and John Zammett's point about residential was very important. But quite a lot of companies are now using delivery vehicles, which are electric, and perhaps one of the barriers that maybe more businesses don't do that is they say, what happens if halfway through the round the vehicle begins to lose power? So it would seem to me also important to try and provide, and these may need to be on street, but more and more places for recharging, because I think that will encourage a quicker changeover for the vehicle fleet to electric. And the same really with LPG within petrol stations. I'm personally aware of companies that have LPG vehicles and then find again that they have to switch back over to petrol if they run low when they're in the West End of London, because I think very few garages actually have LPG as part of what's on offer on the forecourt. Thank you.
So, chap here, Roger, up front.
Brian Miller, VI, Victoria Interchange Group. In considering all these alternative fuel recharging points, we should bear in mind that recharging a battery of a vehicle is not the same as refilling a tank. It takes time, so if anyone's going to start parking their vehicle up to recharge. You're not talking about a 5-minute stop. You're talking about several hours. So it really isn't relevant to start thinking about putting those on the roads or anywhere that is in fact within the public domain.
They already exist. We have 60 already.
Is there anything else anyone wants to raise in relation to that question?